Let's get this all set up here. And for some reason, this little bar at the bottom likes to be in front of my share screen. But good morning. I'm Tanya Calabretta, Assistant Director of Strategic Initiatives in our Youth Health and Wellness Department here at Santa Clara County Office of Education. And I have the great opportunity to share with you the work that really mostly is student driven, but that I help co-facilitate, which is our Student Wellness Advisory Group for Santa Clara County. So a little bit of my background with this is I'm a former secondary teacher and administrator, and have worked with youth advocacy groups or youth leadership groups my entire educational career. I co-advise a group of students now, and actually I'm also taking on the 2P advisory group too. But what we're going to talk about today, I co-advise it with our director, Dr. Pilar Vasquez Vialva, who actually is my former assistant superintendent. And we did work in our former district with the Bell Network and the National Equity Project to really promote youth voice and advocacy on school sites in spaces that they are not usually represented. And that has geared up to help lead this group, who really has a driving goal and focus around student and youth mental and behavioral health, especially in schools. And it's important to point out that we are allies in this space. We are not the leads. We are not the facilitators of the work. We are there to remove barriers for them and help them when they need it. So what is SWAG? This really actually came to be when Santa Clara County Office of Education was gearing up to roll out its site-based wellness centers. So at one point, we had 20 wellness centers across the county at different school sites with partnerships with our districts. And to build those out and get youth voice in how those wellness centers were created and what the needs of youth were, the county office created SWAG. And I've had the joy of leading it for the last 3 years. So it's approximately 15 to 30. I think initially when it was born, it was more like maybe 10 to 20. We have this year almost 40 because we can't say no. How do you tell youth no, they can't advocate for youth mental health? Our members are primarily high school, and we do our best, and I'll talk about this in our application process, to make sure that we have diversity across race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, their experiences, their ability, their socioeconomics. And we strive really hard. One area that I think we finally tackled is making sure that we have representation from across the geographic locations of Santa Clara County. They serve for a year, but they can come back for multiple terms, and they can serve their year out of high school as well. We have had in the past some college students. So what would a presentation be without youth voice? And unfortunately, fortunately, all of my youth are very dedicated to school also. And so they have recorded some videos for you today. This is from our current team. We have some new members and returning, but they're going to share their stories. And Azumi is a third-year member. She's also a co-lead of our team this year. Sarika and Eliza are first-year members. So I'm going to let this play for you. And hopefully the sound and everything works.
Hi, my name is Lisa Tanov, and I am currently a sophomore at Los Gatos High School. About my journey to SWAG. I personally joined SWAG because I'm a track and field athlete. I had to watch as my teammates broke themselves down in physical and mental blocks. A lot of my teammates would get injured or just have a bad race, and I would watch them and hear them say such negative things that didn't define their character at all. It was shocking and deeply upsetting. I wanted to help out my athletes as much as possible. So, when I saw the opportunity for SWAG, I joined right away to help as many of my peers as I possibly could.
Hi, my name is Izumi Rubin. I'm an 11th grader at Cupertino High School, and I've been in SWAG since 2023. At the time when I joined SWAG as a freshman, I didn't exactly know what mental health advocacy entailed, but I remember my mental health being swayed even then by pressures from the people around me. I've pretty much gotten over this by now, but when I was in middle school, I was placed in a math level lower than most of the people in my grade, and I remember beating myself up about it constantly because the topic of course rigor just constantly kept on coming up in conversations at school, and the toxic competitive culture around me told me that I was behind from everyone else, and it even got to the point where I started to believe I was innately unskilled at math, and to this day, I attribute the fact that I've completely eliminated the possibility of a STEM career to this point in my life when I was so swayed by the competitive nature around me. So, although it's hard to change a culture that's prevalent across recent generations, since you can't really advocate to change your mindset, or you can, but it's difficult. It's not something that's tangible. I knew back then that something had to be improved regarding school cultures that tend to deteriorate self-confidence and mental health. So, for the projects that I've planned in SWAG, in the 2023 to 2024 school year, I was in the parents target audience group of a three-part video project where SWAG created videos intended for students, parents, and lawmakers to help foster destigmatization. In the same year, SWAG also organized a mental health art contest that received over 50 responses from all across Santa Clara County, which is the county that SWAG is based in. In the 2024 to 2025 school year, I helped plan a virtual mental health resource fair and town hall event. The resource fair was unique since we planned it based on student responses to a survey, so the would-be participants for this event had a say in the topics that we would address and the resources that we would provide. So it was a very student-tailored event. The town hall was intended to elevate student voices that don't have access to programs like SWAG, so we gave them a chance to talk to uh, people that were higher up in their district so that they had a chance of having their voice heard and maybe making a change as well. Youth advocacy partnership and voice is pivotal, especially in the topic of mental health and wellness, because of the increasingly severe competitive school environments that I just previously mentioned. These that are established by adults are certainly meaningful and have been meaningful. Having people who are experiencing high school right now can definitely bring forth the most current, out of the box ideas. So, for that reason, it's definitely important to have youth voice participating in the topic of mental health.
Hi, my name is Harika, and I currently go to Dr. TJ Owens Gilbert Early College Academy, and I'm currently in 10th grade. I joined SWAG because I deeply care about the mental health and wellness of students in my school and my community in general. I've seen how stress and anxiety and mental health challenges have affected young people, and I want to be part of a community that creates solutions to problems and offers real support. For me personally, I go to a very academically rigorous school where we can take college classes simultaneously with high school classes. And being in SWAG gives me a chance to help students feel like they matter and provide helpful resources and raise awareness about mental health in many ways. And I also want to join because it's an opportunity to learn leadership skills and collaborate with other equally motivated students and also have a direct impact on students' mental health.
All right. So as you can see, we have some very well-spoken youth, and like I said, they're three of almost 40 this year. But what we never really talk about, I think we all agree youth voice is important. It's been a huge push. We've even talked about in the capacity grant group, how do we, entertain that and weave that into this work too. But we don't always talk about how do we actually tangibly do this. So I will quickly take us through some of our recruitment process, applications, meetings, some of the logistics just of how we make this operate. And at the end, and some lessons learned along the way, because it is not always sunshine. And at the end, there'll be a QR code with access to our resources for this work. And as always, you can contact me too if you have questions. Um, so our recruitment typically starts in April or May. We have definitely had a learning curve over how to advertise swag and get the information out there. In past years, we tackled it by trying to send to principals of schools and send to assistant soups of LEAs and things like that. And it just didn't seem like it was always hitting the right audience for who would actually get this information to youth. So for instance, last year we had probably 3/4 of our group were all from one high school. And they were very, very driven to get a wellness center at their school. And guess what? They got one. But that didn't meet our like diverse opportunities of having demographics and geographic locations represented in our team. So we create flyers each year. We have an application process. We found Google Forms works best, especially for reviewing information of 40 students. Um, and we also email out and invite previous members back as well. So they submit their application. We do have a prompt for them around mental health and why they think that they would be a good fit for the team. And they have to upload a video or written response for that year. We did individual group interviews when we found last year with 30 students that wasn't going to work. We started doing some group interviews and just to get to know the youth and then for really them to ask questions of what the expectations were going to be for them. We try to be very transparent and clear about those expectations, their attendance at 80% of the meetings, the time commitment that it takes so that they are very committed and in it for the advocacy and what they want to take out of it too. In prior years, and we're working on it for this year, youth have received up to a $600 stipend for the year. We piece that out at a half year point and base that on attendance. With that comes a lot of internal processes with W-9 forms and stipend forms and approvals. So you can see that there's probably some lessons learned around that. And then also we have a consent to participate. So parents or guardians do need to consent. And they also understand the commitment that's going with this. And then also emergency forms, especially for when we do in-person activities and events. So once we complete all of that, we notify youth with a welcome email and a list of meeting dates and times and the consent forms and all of that. We don't front load that with the application. We do that once they are in. Pilar and I have accepted every student, and we typically have maybe 2 to 3 after the interview process and everything that graciously turned down the opportunity just because of the time commitment and the realism that they're not going to be able to meet that. In those spaces, we do offer an in-person kickoff. Our retreat was really great, and we focus a lot initially on team building, community building, creating norms and expectations, and really talking about what youth mental health means to them so that there's a clear and collaborative understanding of the work we'll be doing for that year. And it changes every year with how that team works and what they want and what they do. Big note is that we are in the space again as allies. We're just there to remove barriers. So we also take away all roles and leverage of power. So we go by preferred names. No one's more important than anybody else. And we practice wellness activities and reflection throughout our retreats and our meetings. We do meet on Zoom. We used to meet every other month. I don't recommend that once you're finally established. It is a time commitment for you. It's also a huge time commitment for youth, and it's not always as productive as one might think. So we have now this year gone to once a month. And if they're working on projects or doing agenda prep, which our co-leaders do the agenda prep with us, and then they also facilitate the entire meeting, that might require time outside that they can meet on their own. So for instance, in 2 weeks, I'll do some agenda prep with our team of 3, and they create the whole agenda, the openers, the closers, warm welcomes, they're doing it all. This year, we did learn that when they're doing their projects, sometimes the motivation in a voluntary space is not always there, or youth have competing factors. So we have a lead who's going to be a project manager and be checking in with our groups along the way and during these meetings to make sure that they're making progress on their projects. So in the past, we have invited guest speakers and presenters. We've hosted and partnered for an advocacy training. It was a six session course. I think this year we might partner with Breathe California in a different capacity as well to do some advocacy training. And then by December, our youth are breaking into their projects, planning, and they're full speed ahead. In the past 3 years that I've worked with this team, we've learned ways to motivate youth, create accountability, and build out their tasks and their wants. And you will find the biggest frustration for youth in these spaces is when things don't actually happen. And we know that sometimes movements take time, but we really encourage them that they need to pick something that's actionable and that they will feel they have completed a task and made a difference in the time period they're with us. The project piece, it's youth led. They do a project proposal, which we actually outlined this year. We didn't have anything as structured, and I think this is really helping them with that accountability piece and the timeline. In the past, they have worked on legislative bills. They've created PSAs, Azumi referenced that, for different audiences around what youth want people to know around why mental health is important for them. Resource fairs, curriculum development. I had a youth last year who created a SEL unit within her English unit existing and worked with her teacher on that. And so with that, I mean, it's the sky's the limit. This year they are working on, Eliza mentioned athletics mental health. They're working on that in addition to translating any mental health and wellness documents for their district into the needed and necessary languages. So there's lots of like maybe smaller but big impact pieces that they're working on this year. So with that, I'm going to show you one of the PSAs, and this was the one they geared towards legislative leaders and then also school district leaders.
I believe youth mental health is a topic that needs to be addressed as soon as possible because not only is it directly affecting us right now, but it's also going to affect our futures. When talking about mental health, we should be looking at it in a preventative way instead of reactive.
Therapy in itself is heavily stigmatized, and on top of that requires scheduling and a lot of intimidating conversation. What I find really effective about wellness centers is that they emphasize not just reaching out for help when you're going through a depressive episode, but proactively taking care of your health and treating it the same way that we treat our physical health.
So there is a mental health and wellness center at my school, and they provide many great resources such as peer counseling and self-awareness blogs, as well as like alumni outreach. And these are all really great resources, and the best part about them is that they're all student made, so they're curated specifically for students by students, which makes them feel a lot more personalized because I know that they're coming from someone who understands me on a deeper level.
It was so nice to be heard by other students as well as from knowing that there's like adult allies behind that group in order to support us. So I know that so many different activities have been done, and I had an overall really positive experience with interacting with the students who are part of the group as well as like the staff and the mental health and wellness center that are there to give us support.
All right, and my timing for it to end and make it a little shorter didn't work. But they have a 3-minute video. They also created them for parents and families, and then for their peers. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities. I will say, biggest thing is to make sure you get out of their way. Azumi referenced it as well, that the students that are living it in it can come up with some of the biggest out of the box ideas. And just remember that sometimes it's really easy for us as adults in this space to say no because we're thinking of all the behind the scenes red tape and bureaucracy that's going to get in the way. But rather focus that mindset to maybe not that, but how could we make it work and still accomplish your goal? When you authentically partner with youth, you'll discover that the sky is literally the limit, and these students never fail to impress me and inspire every single day. So if you have a group like this or the opportunity to create one, I would say do it. You can learn as you go. It's okay to be authentic and make mistakes and fumble along the way. They'll be there, right there with you. And with that, I want to say thank you for listening to this presentation and the hard work that you do for our youth throughout California every single day. My contact information is there, and then also the QR code, which those resources will be shared out with the follow-up from today's office hours. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Desiree.